Good evening. Today we are going to take chapter 9 and 10 together as we missed 1 week. If you remember when they announced the holiday, before they announced that 2 weeks leave, we missed one. And I want to cover as much as possible because the third assignment is coming from those chapters. So I want to cover everything by second week of May. So we'll be able to finish as it was planned. So therefore I'm giving you 2 chapters today. We'll start with chapter 9, stakeholders analysis. Are they important to the organization? Yes, they are important. We'll talk about the concept of stakeholders. We'll focus on external stakeholder types, stakeholders analysis, how we are going to analyze them, examples of interest matrix. Okay, assessing stakeholders' importance. Are they important? All of them are important or what? So we'll go through that and see together. Stakeholders mapping. What do you mean by that? How do we do that? And stakeholders mapping strategies as well. They are not difficult. Maybe a lot of names, but not difficult. We'll go over them together and it will make it easy. Stakeholder salience. What is that? Business ethics and corporate governance. Stakeholders analysis benefits. All those points we will go over them together and we'll explain them. We'll make it as easiest as possible. The concept of stakeholders. So they are people or individual or groups who the organization is depending on to fulfill their own goals, and they also depend on the organization. Let me simplify it. Here means stakeholders, all the people or individuals who have benefits from the organization. And on the other hand, the organization depends on them as well. In a way or another, both are benefiting from each other. Clear? External stakeholders type. As you see, it is divided to 3 types of stakeholders. They are very important. They are very important to the organization. They are distributed according to their relationship with the organization and how they might affect the success of the organization. Number 1, market. Market stakeholders. In market stakeholders, we are talking about the suppliers, distributors, and competitors in the market. The easiest way of saying that. Stakeholders from social or political environment, such as policymakers, regulators, government agencies, political sides. When say political things, anything to do with the laws, rules, regulations. So therefore we are saying policies, regulators, government agencies who have direct influence on the social or legal social legitimacy of the organizations, means legal effect on the society. So legitimacy means the thing that has legal effect on the society. And the third one is the technological environment. Stakeholders from the technological environment. Mainly key adapters, means main association in the technologies, people who are holding technology in their hands, who are forming, designing, developing, and owners of competitive technologies, who are updating the market with the latest type of the technology, who are controlling the market of that. They are called technological environment. So stakeholders from technological environment. Those who will influence the diffusion or spread technologies for those people who are benefiting from the technological environment. If they are making use of a new technology and adapting to the industry standards, to the standards of those technology, so they are on the safe side. Those are the 3 external stakeholders who are very important to the organization: market, social or political, and technological environment. stakeholders analysis. Look at the things are written in red. Action of analyzing the attitude of stakeholders. It can be done only one during the project or towards a project. Could be during the preparation phase, or it can be a continuous throughout the project, not only once, more than one. So let me clarify it or say it in an easiest way. What can we say? It's actually an action which is used to analyze the attitude of stakeholders. Yes, to analyze the attitude of stakeholders, how they behave, how they react towards a project, towards something. Usually is used to analyze their attitude towards a project, which is very important to them. At analyzing their attitude toward a project at early stages of a project. So how many times this is used? How many times depends on the type of project. Their attitude can be assessed only once at the beginning of the project, or it can be done many times, more than once, during various stages of the project to follow changes in stakeholders' attitudes over time, as long as the project is going on. Slide number 6. Slide number 6 is stakeholders analysis. The organization is going to look at all those people, we have 9 groups, as they are considered to be stakeholders. The analysis will focus on the attitude of all the mentioned names here as stakeholders, as they are the main assets and the main cause for its reputation and sustainability. So do they affect the organization? Yes. All the 9 here we have: employees, shareholders, investors and creditors, customers, suppliers, government, we said the people who are putting rules and regulations, sometimes government projects, regulatory bodies, civil society organization, local community. We'll talk about all most important in this. So all of them are important, yes. Do we need to take care of all of them? Yes. But still there is a percentage of dealing with so and so. In those 9 names, there are some or certain group which is highly important for the organization. We'll come to discuss them later when we go to the coming slide. Now, I'll just give you a few minutes to get a pencil and highlighter. Later, I'll let you come back to this diagram or to this matrix and we will discuss it in detail. So try to have a pencil and a highlighter with you. We will look, not now, later on, we will look at people who have power and who have a level of interest of those people. For example, low power and low level of interest, or we can say low power and high level of interest. We can say low power, high power and low level of interest, or high power and high level of interest. Later on, when we come to slide number 8 or 9, I think, we will talk about it in detail. So try to have a pencil and a highlighter. Later on, when I'm explaining, I need you to focus only on this one, then you will get it. We'll talk about it later on. Yes, assessing stakeholders' importance. When do we do such analysis to stakeholders? When we do that, this gives us a very clear picture of the organization and who are the most or critical to the organization or very important to the organizational survival. So from this list, there are people who are very important for the survival of the organization. Are all of them are important? Yes, they are, but there are very important people. Without those, the organization cannot survive. Later on, we'll talk about them. And at the same time, the organization needs to make sure that those critical stakeholders are satisfied. So we need to highlight those stakeholders who are important to the organization. And the second thing, organization is trying to make those critical stakeholders satisfied. Why? Why the organization is taking care of those? As we said earlier, they are the main cause for the duration of survival in the market, for the organization's duration of survival in the market, which means for the organization sustainability, for the organization remaining as long as possible in the market. Again, why? Because this analysis will lead to this conclusion, which is there are three groups that matter most to the organizational survival. As this one. Okay, so there are three groups that are most matter to the organization, who are customers, employees, and shareholders. All of them are important. All the 9 are important, but those three are the most important. This doesn't mean other stakeholders are not important. Bear in mind this point. They are important to a certain percentage, but those three are the most important to the organization. Go back to the circle, slide number 6, and highlight those three. Use the highlighter to highlight those three important stakeholders. Why? Because we will need them later when we go to the diagram. Come on, I'm giving you a second to highlight them on slide number 6. Customers, employees, and shareholders. Do it now. Done? Highlighted? Do it please, because later when we go back to the diagram or to the matrix on slide 7, it will be easier for you to get the idea. So highlighted them, all the three. Okay, so stakeholders mapping means what? Look at the red ones: identification, expectation, power, how interested stakeholders. That means what? This mapping, let me simplify it for you. This mapping identifies stakeholders' expectation, power, and this mapping will help and lead to understand the political priorities of those people. Political priorities, yes, to understand the political priorities. In understanding that, what will happen? This points out two important issues. Okay, this understanding will point out two important issues. Number one, to which extent this interested stakeholder group will persuade or will convince itself as a group that its expectation on the organization purposes and choice of specific strategies are accurate. So to which extent those stakeholders will persuade their expectation on what is expected from the organization. To answer this point, we have to go to point 2. Where stakeholders have the power to do so. So the second point, which is talking about, will help the organization. If the organization do focus on those two things at the beginning, it will help them to understand the organization, to make sure or to know if those stakeholders have the power to do so, to do what is required from them. Will be able to make use from those stakeholders as much as possible or required. This is the idea of that. I think it's clear, right? It's clear. Now, I'll talk about this one. You go back to slide number 7. This one. Now, I'll be explaining from that slide, but you focus on this and write with your pencil what I'm going to say. You tell me we are right or wrong. What we are expecting is right or wrong. Okay, keep looking at this slide while I'm discussing or mentioning this. We said stakeholders mapping and mapping strategies help the organization to divide the most important stakeholders into 4 groups, as you can see, A, B, C, D. Yes, look at this, don't go to the slides. So this matrix is doing what? Is dividing the main groups of stakeholders, the main important groups of stakeholders to the organization. If you remember the 3 names we mentioned, customers, shareholders, and employees. Focus on those 3 names, customers, shareholders, and employees. Now use your pencil and look at A. Whom you can put from those customers, shareholders, and employees, who from those 3 put minimum effort in the organization while they are working, while they are doing strategies, while they are executing their plans throughout all this matrix. Who are putting the minimum efforts in the organization? Means low power, low effort, and low power. Doesn't mean low power. All of them, they have power, but to a certain extent. In this case, who put minimum effort? Is it customer or shareholders or employees? I'll give you a second to label that. Come on. Yes, can be repeated also the names in the other group, or you can use other names. Customers, shareholders, employees. Focus only on those 3 as they are divided here. Minimum effort, what did you put? To me is customers. So right here, customers. Why you are saying customers? Among those 3, shareholders, employees, they put the minimum effort in the organization. So they have lower power and low interest rather than the 2 in as effort in the organization. Let us go to B. B, one of those, or could be 2 if you want, or could be all of them if you want. Keep informed whom the organization throughout the stages or processes should keep informed. Is it customer, shareholders, or employees? Whom need to be informed? They are the easiest to deal with. A and B, they are the easiest to deal with. A, I told you already, customers. So think. B, have low power but high interest. Low power but high interest. High interest and easy to deal with. Is it customer, shareholders, or employees? Come on, think of it and tell me. And write it on the slide. Then check with me. Easiest to deal with. Keep informed. As an organization, should update them with all the things. So check your answer. For me, shareholders and employees, they need to keep informed. They need to, as shareholders, they need to see the progress, the profit, their money, where has it gone, and so many things. Employees need to be updated to know their direction, to know how to execute what is required from them, to know the main objectives, to reach what is required by the end, to reach the main objectives or goals of the organization. So they need to keep informed. So in B, we have shareholders and employees. Okay, let us go to C. In this group, they are important because they are powerful. They are saying this group is important because they are powerful. Keep satisfied. Whom should we keep satisfied? Is it customers or shareholders or employees? Keep satisfied because they are important and powerful to the organization. Come on, a second to write. Are they customers or shareholders or employees? To me, all of them. All of them should keep satisfied. We need customer satisfaction to gain loyalty in the market and for expansion. We need shareholders because their money is keeping us working and increasing or improving or developing. Employees, they are doing the work, so we need to satisfy them, rewarding them, recognition from time to time, support them, encourage them, motivate them. So all the three are important. You can write the names: customers, shareholders, employees, or all. D, key players. They are the key players. Should have the most management attention. Should have the most management attention. According to strategies, mapping strategies, D group should have management attention. Whom should be? What are you going to write here? Customers, shareholders, or employees? Come on, I read your answers. Whom you are going to write here? To me, employees, because they are the key players. They are doing everything from A to Z in the organization. So they should take the attention from management level. Should encourage them, support them, provide them with the requirements, recognize them, reward them. So they are the key players. If you have done it or put them in the right organization, that means you are there. This is the one I was explaining when you are looking at the diagram. Let us move to stakeholders salience. What do you mean by that? Stakeholders salience. We means here the stakeholders salience. What do you mean by stakeholder salience? Yeah, it's yes. Stakeholder salience means mapping strategies will lead to stakeholders' appearance. We can say to stakeholders, say to show those stakeholders. That means they will be brilliant, shone, shining, appear. This is the idea of salience. Means being recognized or known. I think to you is that. Okay? So Mitchell in 1997 listed 3 important qualities for assessing or supporting the importance of stakeholders. According to the man who did this study or who investigated, who wrote this in 1997, he said there are 3 important qualities for assessing this or for supporting the importance of stakeholders. They have 3 important, they powered, or he mentioned 3 things for assessing or knowing or recognizing the stakeholders. Number 1, power. As stakeholders, do they have power to influence the organization action? Are they strong enough to change any action in the organization as they want? So this is the idea of power. Number 2, legitimacy. What do you mean by legitimacy? Whether the organization, this means what? Does the organization observes those stakeholders as desirable or needed? Does the organization look at those stakeholders as needed people or proper or appropriate group of people? Their actions, looking at their actions, if it is desirable or proper or appropriate. So as an organization, how do they look at them? How do they look at them? To which extent they are working in a legal way? And the last one is urgency. Is their action or response as stakeholders is needed to be done immediately or urgently? Means if they want anything, is their action, what their action is going to be done, is it needed to be done immediately or urgently? This depends on the power, on the importance of the stakeholders to the organization. And read the note down, is saying what? Yes, this says what? That means managers' role to pay attention to those stakeholders are to say those stakeholders who have greater power, legitimacy, and urgency. That means to classify those stakeholders according to power, legitimacy, and urgency. This depends on the management power, management role to pay attention to them and divide them according to those three things. So the role of top management or management who have action or ability to say yes or no, to evaluate their importance according to those 3 points. Importance, I mean importance of stakeholders. Yes, this one we mentioned. Now we'll come to an important point here. We talked about last time in chapter 8, business ethics, which is one of the most important thing for the organizations. One of the most important thing for any organization. An organization cannot stand without standards. What is business ethics? It's a standard any organization put to deal with within the people inside the organization or outside the organization. As you are a worker from the same citizen, from the same country or outside the country, all have to do or work according to the standards those are put by the organization. Why they are putting those standards? Just to control the behavior, the attitude, the reaction of the employees in that organization. A kind of controlling and acting in an ethical way in the market. And also those business ethics should reflect the organization mission. That means those ethical issues the organization is putting should be part of the organization mission, be stated in the MS. As you know, I think you know it's clear for you, right? Now, reasons, where is that in the second part? Yes, okay. Reasons for ethical behavior. Reasons for ethical behavior. It has 4 you might come across many other things, but those, if you search in the net, you might find those 4. You might find more than those 4, but those are the most important business ethics for any organization. These are the most important reason for ethical behaviors in the organization. Why we are insisting on ethics in the organization. Number 1, inescapable. What do you mean by that? Legal requirement. It's one of the things that means certain or essential. We can say certain practices, invariable practices, or certain practices that is required for the organization. Legal requirement, needed legally. معناها for sure. Okay. Number 2, inherently important. Means what is inherently important? Means very essential, essentially important, naturally important. You can say commitment to the environment. You should be committed to the environment, internal or external. Look at the requirements of the environment. Don't do actions which is not accepted internally or externally. Therefore, those are the most important thing to control the ethical behavior of the employees. Professionalism. To be a professional in treatment of staff and customers. When you are dealing with customers, either at management level or the lowest level of employee, professionalism is required in treating staff and customers. As an employee in that organization, you need to be very professional in dealing with other employees, or when you have customers, deal with them in a very respectful way. Be respected, patient, anything that requires due legal, and to be professional in responding to others. And the last one is saying self-interest. What do you mean by self-interest? This is avoidance of bad publicity. Yes. What do you mean by that? Let me give you an example. Self-interest. What can I say? Okay, let us say example, you had bad experience in your workplace. Let us say Ahmed. Okay, You are working for Bank Muscat, suddenly يعني بسم الله عليك, suddenly something wrong happened between you and their relationship, between you and them as a relationship, and you want to leave them or you left them. Not only Bank Muscat, if you are working in one of the agencies, me in this college, I have something accident, something not good, a bad experience, and I left them. Okay, so when I go to other places, I will say, this college is so and so and so and so. Don't study in that. Don't go to that. They don't respect. No. Don't avoid saying or distributing or announcing negative information about that place. It might be a personal experience. So when you have a bad experience in that place of work or in your place, do not advertise. Don't talk badly or negatively about that place. It's a single experience, so no need to advertise. Self-interest. You are not interested in that place, you don't like it, you have a lot of problems with, so this is between you and them. But don't spread negative news about that place. Even if you don't, keep quiet, but don't give negative attitude to others. This is the idea of self-interest. I think we came, no, still. Let us move to the other examples of unethical behavior. What we mentioned earlier can be examples of unethical behavior, And here we have other examples of unethical behavior. Bullying and harassment. Yes, harassment. Okay. Bullying and harassment of staff. What do you mean by that? Don't insult the employees. Don't harm others. This is the idea here. This is an ethical practices. Don't insult the employees. Don't go around and giving orders like bossy. Not insulting. And harassment means also don't harm others, other employees. Even if there is a mistake or there is something, don't shout, don't insult, don't harm them. This is one of the ethical things, unethical behavior, which is going on a lot. Bribery and corruption to gain contract. Don't pay money to people who have authority from under the table just to get that contract. Unethical practice, and this will create a kind of corruption. نوع من الفساد يعني. A kind of corruption to get only that contract. This is unethical behavior. Making and selling unethical products like what? Like weapons. Weapons in the world are one of the unethical practices all over the world. So don't sell unethical products. Don't sell weapons to kill other peoples or other nation. Number 2, what is happening a lot in this world? Western companies faulty or substandard or product dumping third world market. What happens here? The Western companies, they take their expired or finished products or products which are not having standards or very low standards, they are selling in the third world market. They are throwing them in the third world market rather than losing them, which is unethical practice. These are examples of unethical practices. Failing to disclose information. Not giving or releasing the required information in an ethical way, in an proper way. This is one of the things which always happening. Sometimes a place of work asking, for example, when they take, I think it's easy not to give examples. Not giving or releasing the right or required information, disclose information. Industrial espionage. The industrial espionage, what do you mean by that? Industrial espionage, that means industrial spying on other businesses, which is unethical practice. Like, for example, I'm working in a college. Why that college have students more than ours? Why there is something in that college we don't have it? So why they have it? So I send people to spy and see how do they deal, how they interact, how much they pay them, and that. This is wrong, negative, unethical behavior. And is it the last? No, still, sorry. Business attempt to manage the ethical behavior of staff or employees. How businesses manage or control the ethical behavior of the employees. Therefore, they put codes of conduct. They put written guidelines about how to treat customers, suppliers, and competitors. They gave you like Toyota, Siemens, Johnson & Johnson, and many companies. You write as you want. So, code of conducts. Written code for the employees how to deal with customers or suppliers or competitors. Therefore, when you go to those agencies, you see people are dealing with you in a very professional way, respecting you as a customer, either you buy or not. This is one of the things they write to them to control that behavior of the employees, making them act ethically. Number 2, codes of ethics. Codes of ethics. Written statements about values and ethical standards. Written statements about values and ethical standards. They want them to learn them as they are written. Why they are written codes of ethical standards? They are written for the employees to go over and study or learn about, because sometimes you are new to the culture, to the country, to the society, background is different, so the written codes are there for you to learn. For those people, for those employees. Training. Train employees how to deal with customers, with suppliers, with competitors, with anyone they are dealing with any stakeholder. So train those employees. Whenever you work in a place, it's a new thing for you. Even if you have knowledge, you have certificates, you need a kind of training. This is an ethical behavioral attitude or training required for those employees. And the last one is organizational practice and culture. This is one of the things we are looking for in our assignment. Always the organizational practices and culture. Culture will come from ethical behavior, how you train your employees. And those 2 points are under that. Let us see. Senior management provide role model. If you want your organization to deal ethically with the right practices, that means create that good culture in the organization. Punctuality, transparency, respect, truth, saying the truth. So you are creating a good base, a good culture for that organization. As number 1, you are the model for your employees. Don't ask your employees to come at 7:30 and you come as a boss or a manager by 9:30. Is that creating that culture? Then the employees will be taking over and coming late and will not create that good culture, that good base for the organization. Whenever you ask your employee for something, be a model for them in that particular area. Okay. Transgressions or offenses, we can say misbehavior. We can say misbehavior punished. Whenever there is a misbehavior or offenses or something done wrong, if an employee was asked to come at this time and leave at that time and they leave earlier, punish. This is an idea of that. Always when there is something, punish those people. Why? He will learn, others also will learn, and this way you are under the ethical practices, and you are building that cultural things in the organization which you wanted to have as a long run practice. Cultural things doesn't come in one day. It needs a long building over each other, layers. How do you deal? So you create that culture. And most of the organization are not the same in their cultural things. Everywhere you will find different culture. You cannot imitate. Why? Because the base depends on how do they deal. Yes, you have written codes, you have training, but still the culture depends on how it was formed earlier, and we are building on from time to time. Corporate governance, the authority or the power that those governors have. Corporate governance is conducted concerned with two things: selection and conduct of senior people. How do you select and what is their practices as seniors in the organization, managers and directors? Relationship between senior and other stakeholder. This is also part of ethical things. How do they deal with what is the relationship between seniors and stakeholders? Is there a respect, face-to-face meeting, or no, as a manager I don't want to meet, let fulan and fulan meet, which is wrong. So relationship is building that kind of cultural thing, that kind of something like corporate governance authority, the power that link those people, taking care of these two things. Okay, relates to the power of senior. Corporate governance gives the authority or the power to senior people to take the actions, to be there, but also check on their power. They need those seniors who were given power, as the earlier point, their practices need to be checked. Why? To prevent abuse. They might use their power to give so and so and so. They might use their power to bring so and so and so. So they need someone to follow or check their practices on their power. Are they using their power positively or negatively? Or there's a kind of corruption. Okay, this based on the information provided to the stakeholders. Check what do they give the stakeholders the right information? Appointment of non-executive directors. Did they meet them on the right appointment? Do they need them, or they send someone? So as management, you need to follow their practices. Yes, they have the power, but still they need someone to follow them. There are some principles which they should be aware of for corporate governance to give the authority and power. It's also creating the ethical behavior of the organization, which by the end reflects on the cultural background of the organization. Those principles are such as integrity, means what? Truth, being fair, reliable, honest. Openness means being very open to your employees, talk to them openly, to any stakeholder. Even if there is comment or negative issue, clarify it to them, very open. Impartiality means objectivity, being honest, say the truth, always not taking side with so and so, rather than always take the right action. Impartiality means نزاهة, always take the right track, the right path, always talk and say the truth. Don't say take the side of so and so and so. Be with the truth, or say the truth, or take the right action as a person. You have authority and power in the organization. All those practices means if those things are done perfectly in a sufficient way, that means ethical behavior of the staff is good, and this one again will reflect the culture of the organization, and vice versa can work also. Negative will lead to negative practices, will lead to a unhealthy environment and unhealthy cultural background. So whatever you put in the organization, you will see it later. Whatever you put as practices, you will see it later. It will show as a final end. Why? Because you are building on that cultural thing. You are building the ethical behavior of the employees. It doesn't come in a night. And the last slide is talking about the benefits of stakeholders analysis. What we are benefiting, what we are getting when we do this type of analysis. Stakeholders analysis helps in identifying those things. 1, 2, 3, 4. If I do stakeholders analysis, study all those things about them. Why I'm doing so and so, what do I need from this stakeholder? This will help me as an organization to look at stakeholders' interest, what interests those people as a stakeholder, and direct my objectives and my task, my authority, my ability, my practices to satisfy their interest. Mechanism to influence other stakeholders. If I do this type of analysis, it's a kind will help me how to influence other stakeholders. How can I influence them? How can I make them loyal to me as an organization? How can I attract them as long as possible? Why? From those analysis, I know what they want, I know what they are looking for, I know how I attract them, so I know all those things about them, so it's a way of influencing them. Possible risk. When I'm doing this analysis, I'll try to be aware. It will help me to avoid possible risk what kind of possible risk I might get from stakeholders? Losing them. So when I do a kind of analysis, I know how to catch them. So the possibility of risk is low here. And the last one, key people to be informed about the project during the implementation phase. Do you remember? At the beginning earlier we said, part of that stakeholders need to be informed about certain project, either once at the beginning of the stage or throughout. Depends on the project, depends on the type of stakeholder. Not all those 9 stakeholders, they want to know everything all the time, but there are people who want to know what's going in that project. So this analysis will tell me or will lead me to tell whom and focus on whom during those projects, to tell them about the idea or the detailed information about the during the implementation phase of that particular project. This is the end of the slides. Hope they are easy, and just wait for chapter 10, I think. Just wait for chapter 10.